Different day, same camo pants. I know. Welcome back. Today, we're going to be working on my personal favorite car, my Rally Red 8th Gen SI sedan. Perhaps the only one of its kind, but more on that later. Let's get into it. So from the title, you're probably thinking, Rob, why are you demodifying your car? What? Because it's my car and I can do what I want, for one. For two, I would like to campaign this as my regular autocross car. I was planning on, kind of using the 9th gen, but this car just makes more sense for me for a few reasons. So, reason one, it already has Coney yellows. It has Coney yellows in the front and Coney yellows in the back. Reason number two is I can fit in it with a helmet on. I can actually sit in there and be comfortable. I can look to my left without bonking my head on the A-pillar. So that's a pretty big issue for me. It's good to be comfortable while you're racing. If you're, trying to duck, it's hard to drive. So I don't want to do that. Reason number three, I don't intend on ever selling this car, and I don't want to winter drive it, so it makes sense to use it as my summer autocross toy. If later down the road I'm no longer autocrossing the car, I'm going to keep all the modified parts, which isn't a lot, but I'm going to keep them, and then I can always go back to the state I had the car in originally. How many reasons is that? 3? 5? I forget. Anywho, it's also probably a more versatile autocross car, being that this car can only hit probably, I think it's, on 225s, I think it'll hit 54 miles an hour. On 220, did I say 255s? On 225s, this car can hit 53 miles an hour. On 225s, the 8th gen can hit like 58, I think. So on faster tracks, such as Packwood, this car will be a lot more ideal. Yeah, I don't know, that's kind of my reasoning behind it. So, let's get into what I need to change to make this car H Street legal. Okay, before I pull the cover off this car, I just want to show you a little behind the scenes footage of just how high dollar we are here at Rob's shop. Yeah, this is my official camera mount OEM Honda filter. Nothing but the best. Okay, before I tell you the things I'm unmodifying, I'll give you a little bit of background for those who aren't familiar with street class in autocross. So we're really limited to the modifications we can do, basically to keep costs down and keep everybody on a level playing field. So I'm allowed different rims or wheels, whatever you want to call it. They have to be the same width as stock. They can go up an inch or down an inch in diameter from the OE size, and the offset can only change +7 or -7 millimeters. That's it. That's all you can do with wheels. You are allowed to do one addition, subtraction, or substitution when it comes to a sway bar. So like you could add a big rear bar, or you could take out the front bar but not add a big rear bar. You could add a big front bar but not a rear bar. You get it. You can do one thing with sway bars. You are allowed to change the shocks, not the springs, so it has to be stock springs, but I'm allowed to run Coney yellows, which the car already has. You cannot add any type of a cold air intake, but you are allowed to replace the air filter element. So you can put in like a K&N drop-in or an AFE or whatever you want. This car has a K&N drop-in. You can modify the exhaust only downstream from the cat. So you cannot put a header on it, you can't put a high floor cat on it. Everything from the cat up to the engine has to be OEM, but from the cat back, you're open. You can do whatever you want, except for I think it has to exit out of the back of the car if I'm not mistaken. And obviously you have to fit in with noise rules that wherever you race. That's basically it. I'm sure I'm missing a few little things, but you know, that's the general consensus of what you're allowed to do in street class. So with that, let's get into the modifications that need to be changed on my car to make it legal. Modification number 1 that needs to be changed. The car has a Hasport lower engine mount. So obviously not legal for street class. So I have an OEM mount, not the one from this car because I think I threw it away, but my parts car out back had one, so I have that mount. Obviously it would be ideal to go new, but I kind of blew all my wad on the 9th gen, so just using what I got for now. So lower motor mount, I'd show you, but you know, it's under there and I'm up here. Reason number 2. No, not reason. Modification number 2 that I need to change is the front brakes. So when I first built this car, I decided I was going to use it for some track use, and I did once, but I put TSX brakes on the front. So it has TSX rotors and TSX calipers with a WinMax W3 pad. So of course that's not legal for 8th Street. Although I would argue it's not an advantage for 8th Street. All you're doing is adding rotational mass. Big brakes don't really help you that much in autocross. As long as your brakes are adequate, you're fine. But nonetheless, they are legal. So if we go to the back of the car, you can see here, there's that OEM motor mount that I'll be installing. And here's a set of OEM SI calipers and brackets. So as of right now, I don't have pads or rotors, so I won't be doing that today. But once I order that stuff, they'll be going on the front. And then that's that. Modification number 3. 3? It's the 3rd modification. The car has the Skunk 2 rear camber arms. They're the good ones. They're Ultra Pro. I don't remember. They're the nice ones. They got the Heim joints and whatnot. So those are not illegal, those are not legal. They are illegal for 8th Street. You can't have non-factory methods of adjusting rear camber. So as you may have seen in the trunk there, I have a set of used camber arms for the car. They are also off of a facelifted SI sedan, my parts car in the backyard. So they are the C-stamped ones. For those not familiar, the Zenki 8th Gen SIs had a recall for wearing out the back tires too fast because they had too much rear camber. And in 2009, Honda fixed that by changing the rear camber arms, giving it more positive camber. So therefore they are legal to use in the class. My car's an 09 anyway, so its stock has the C-stamped, but so I'll be putting the C-stamped arms on, putting my camber back to stock in the rear, and that is it for legal modifications. The rest of the car is legal. I do have a few changes I'd like to make. One of those being it has no camber bolts in the front. Well, it did actually. I want to show you something. So these springs down here are TN S-Tech. Yeah. So those were in the car. I've removed those off camera. I did that a couple months back when I was kind of planning this whole thing before I was ever planning to YouTube it. So I removed those, and I also had like an aftermarket like Ingalls camber kit bolt thing in there. There was 2 per side. It gave me like 2.5 degrees. They were a total pain in the ass. Those are gone. Those also are not legal for H Street. So I will be getting the Honda crash bolts or service bolts. They're about 16 bucks a piece, I think. I want to get them for this car as well. Anywho, so I do want to add the Honda crash bolts to the front to max out my camber. And then once I do the rear arms at the same time, I'll be able to have the car fully realigned. The Coney yellows will stay. It already has a K&N drop-in filter. That's the only modification to the engine. I can show you guys on the hood. Okay, so as you can see, it's stock under here. I did do the 2010 plus black cover because I did the valve cover wrinkle black. When I was rebuilding the car, I did the valve cover seal and I did a valve adjustment. Because I didn't know when it had ever been done. I had no previous history, being that I bought the car at auction. And then it has K&N drop-in filter. Exhaust is completely stock. Inside the car is also stock. It currently does not have a shift boot in it. I have that in my FA1 base model, so I'm probably going to buy a new one for this car. So yeah, this is the collection of parts that need to be changed. Like I said, I got the brake calipers, rear camber arms, and motor mount. Yes, this stuff is all used. Yes, I could buy new and it would be tighter and better, but they're in all right shape. The bushings aren't totally gacked. They're still there. Same with this. It's not torn or anything. It'll get me by for the season. If I decide I really like 8-streeting this car, I can always purchase those new to try and tighten up the tolerances. So yeah, that's everything I need to change to make my car legal. So let's get to it. All right, through the magic of cinema, it's now on jack stands. We've got an impact. Let's take these wheels off. Hire me, NASCAR. Mic drop. Oof da. A guy's just running out of space for wheels and tires. Just too many of them. It's just, yep, mint. All right. So as you can see here, those skunk 2 arms and the Coney yellows. Stock springs that I put back in. Last year I was running it on TN S-Techs, which I may or may not have already shown you. And there's that 2014 SI sway bar, 20 mil. It's got the heavy duty Moog end links and bushings. So yeah, let's get them babies off of there. All right, we're gonna try to be one of those cool YouTubers. We're just gonna try and snap and then have this boom boom Thanos style, okay? Ready? Didn't work. Oh, this is for the right side. Okay, this is the left one. Let's try this again. Aha! Marvel, hire me as your next superhero. I will snap all the Hyundais out of existence. Alright, something I want to point out here, excuse me, well, I'm just finishing the second one up, is how it's nice of Honda's engineers that they make the nut removable for this. So a lot of times if this is fixed on here and you're trying to hammer this through, it can be hard to get it lined up with the threads and get it to not cross thread, blah blah blah. It can be kind of a pain. So with this setup, you get it lined up, hammer your bolt through. Mine's obviously already lined up, it just slides through by hand. But if you were struggling, you'd have to hammer that through. Once it's through, you can then just thread this on nicely with no worry of screwing up the thread or the nut or any of that, right? You thread it in a bit, and then it has this keyway that it lines up to, like that, that a 10 mil bolt goes into. So just line up that little 10 mil bolt like so. Run that in. Be crazy tight. And then now you know your threads are good, so you can just, you know, wail on this thing with some ugga-duggos. And just like that, you remove your jack and everything's happy. So, thanks Honda. All right, with those done, put a zip tie in the little end things there because they fall out. So, stock ones are in. These ones I'll put away for a rainy day. And then our next task will be motor mount. So, without further ado, let's install this bad boy. There it is, all done. Interesting thing to note though, when I had to undo the front motor mount so I could tilt the engine enough to get this one out. And when I was noticing that, the front engine mount, the bolt isn't as large as the hole. And now I don't know if my mount is a factory Honda mount or maybe it's an aftermarket, like just like a part store replacement. But like I can see when it's tightened, there would never be an issue, it shouldn't move, but most motor mounts, the bolt is the same size as the hole, right? Like it's a machined fit. It's meant to fit in there so that it can't move back and forth. Whereas on that front one, it was kind of like this, like the bolt could do this in there. And that was, to my knowledge, it's a factory mount and factory bolt. So I find that pretty interesting. Might do a little research on that and see if that's just my car or if that's a common thing, because if it is, I would like to remedy it. So watch out for future content on that. I might actually end up doing a quick fix for that, just to make your factory motor mounts more solid, just by adding the right sized bolt, having to drill out the mounts a little bit. But yeah, interesting. So as previously mentioned, I said I was allowed to do wheels and sway bar change on this car. So I already told you guys it has Coney yellows and it has a K&N filter in it. I didn't mention what I was going to do for those other things because they're both pretty important when it comes to H Street to maximize your car and your class. So for wheels, I have a set of Enkai RPF ones on order. They're 17x7 plus 45, so they're the exact same specs as stock, diameter, width, offset, exactly the same. But I think they are, and don't quote me on this, in the neighborhood of just under 15 pounds, I want to say. So the stock rims are around the 23-pound mark, so I'm losing, let's say, 8 pounds of unsprung weight and rotational mass per corner. So that's going to make a huge difference on the car. And then the next thing, why do I keep doing this? What am I? That's probably inappropriate for YouTube. I'm going to stand over here. All right, the next thing would be the sway bar. So this car has a sway bar in it, a rear one. It has a 2014 9th Gen SI Coupe rear sway bar. It's 20 millimeters versus your stock, which is like tiny. I don't remember, 15 millimeter? It's pinner. So that woke this car up a lot. But I have a Progress sway bar on order. I actually ordered it for the 9th Gen. But if I'm going to be less serious about racing the 9th Gen, I still plan on racing it, but I want this car to be the more serious one. So do I put the new Progress bar I just ordered into the red car and then take the 20 mil out of the red car and put it in the white one? I think that would make the most sense, because the white car only has an 18 mil, so putting the 20 would wake this car up a little bit, make it a little more oversteery and fun on the street for toge and whatnot. And then the Progress bar being substantially stiffer would really help this car because I'm going to autocross this car. Those are my thoughts. I'm not sure yet on the sway bar situation, but I'll make a decision when it comes in. The one thought I did have against that was that because this car has conies in it, I can kind of stiffen up the rear roll stiffness with the shocks. So I should maybe put the stiffer sway bar in this car, which doesn't have the nice shocks in it. But again, I want this one to be the race car. I think I should put the Progress in the red car. So let me know what you think. Or don't. Do what you want. It's done. So today we did the motor mount and the rear arms. There will be future content on this car. Like I said, I want to do front camber bolts and maybe the sway bar. We'll see. I'm kind of lazy when it comes to doing things twice. I'm all for doing it right the first time, but when it comes to doing it the second time, I'm like, let's maybe not do that. I've got wheels and tires coming for it, and I'm probably going to do a service up on it and, you know, get it ready to go. So there will be future content on this car. But for now, I will be focusing on the 9th Gen, just waiting on parts, keep myself busy. So, oh, and the other thing is the front brakes. I didn't do the front brakes today because I don't have rotors and I don't have pads. So will I get to those before race day? I don't know. Might end up racing with my illegal brakes. Don't tell anybody. It's a secret. Can't let you. So yeah. See you guys next time.